Technically, I'm a third generation farmer, but really a second generation at this location. So my grandpa sold out in the 60s and done some other things for a while. And then when my dad got older, they bought where we are and started farming again. So again, technically I'm third generation, but second generation here where we're at. I consider my dad really the first generation of where we are. We farm about 1,000 acres and have corn, soybeans, wheat, hay, and rye in our rotation. And my dad still does milk about 30 to 40 cows. So I've been running a tractor by myself in the field since I was 5 years old. So it's just kind of what I've always done. But it's all I ever wanted to do. Before I was 5, I mean, from the time that basically I could hold myself up, I was with my dad and grandpa every day doing stuff on the farm. I just always have been there. It's the one thing that doesn't matter how frustrated or how mad I am about something on the farm, the next day I'm ready to go back and get at it again. So really clear back in the 70s, the video we had earlier, I mentioned I have a newspaper article of my dad trying out a no-till corn planter from the Noble County Soil and Water District. So conservation's been something he's been interested in, but I would not say he is a lead adopter on it, as he is not on most things. He mostly kind of likes to observe the early adopters and then adapt that to his operation, and I can't argue with how that's worked out for him. We started no-tilling soybeans I think in 87 or 88. We rented a no-till drill, then bought it the following year. No-tilled our wheat then. We did some no-till corn off and on, did quite a bit in the 90s. Kind of got away from it then in the early 2000s, and then in the late 2000s, and really in 2010 I think is when, no, 2011 is when we bought this planter here behind me, and that's when we were all in. We went 100% no-till on that, and at the same time, leading up to that in 09, we went 100% VRT, soil management zones on nutrient management. We have always side dressed our nitrogen. Very rarely would we ever pre-apply any nitrogen, and have buffers on all of our own land along ditches, grass waterways. We've done cover crops, kind of started to hit the gas pretty hard on that in the last 5 years, planted green the last couple years, and the thing that I'm pretty proud of is that we've done that with no any programs. We've done it all on our own. So I started working for NRCS in June of 2010. Just real quick, previous to that, I worked for Soil and Water District in DeKalb County for 3 years. So yeah, I've been a district conservationist for coming up on 11 years here in June. As far as how that affects my outlook on farming or what we do in farming, probably does some. But in all reality, I don't know how much I think we would have still ended up where we are today, even if I did not work for NRCS. I think it's been a much easier road for us, with the knowledge I gain in my job about different practices and the ways to properly implement those. But, had I not worked for NRCS, we would have had to lean on our local soil and water districts and local NRCS a whole lot more, obviously, than we have since I've been directly involved. So, but I think we still would have ended up at the same place. I mean, my dad's pretty conscientious about doing the right thing, and conservation he views as a right thing. and he also views it as a way of, impacting the bottom line. So the big thing is ROI, return on investment. I mean, it just I'm amazed at the dollars spent on tillage tools, because there's always the argument on conservation. It's hard to calculate direct return and direct dollars at the end of the day. Well, have somebody show me that with a chisel plow. Can you tell me that by running that on that field, that directly resulted in X number more dollars? It's a perceived thing that it does, but for us, it's all about return on investment. And I think Dad, having milked cows for 40 plus years, anybody that's been involved in the dairy industry knows what I'm talking about. You definitely key in on ROI, because in dairy, you can pour a whole lot of vitamins and nutrients and stuff to cows, but that may not result in more net income at the end of the year. And so we definitely take that approach on the crop side of things. However, I will specify, we are grain farmers that milk cows, not dairymen that raise feed. So we farm a lot more acres than we need for feed. So I would definitely say crops are the primary, dairy's the secondary, but that mentality definitely spills over into it. So we're always looking at ROI, and that kind of comes down to even on planter setup. There's a lot of technology you can put on planters and stuff, but with 800 acres of row crops, is that really going to pay? Kind of like the chisel plow. I can put hydraulic downforce on this, but do I think on our size operation, planting 400 acres of corn a year, is that really going to return me enough to justify the expense? So, and of course, goes into price of corn and all those kind of things. So I can't explain what motivates me to keep farming. It's just what I want to do. It never seems like a job. And if anybody's ever lucky enough to find something that never seems like a job, when I get home from work, I go to the farm. I'm there till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. In the off season, this isn't when we're doing field operations, working on stuff, doing chores, whatever, and that never seems like overtime. That never seems like I'm going to a second job. So really, it's what I want to do as far as continuing to farm. It's what I've always done. Just can't imagine not being involved in farming in some way. It's a pride thing, I think, for us. It didn't start out that way. It definitely was an ROI thing. And to be honest, like a lot of no-tillers, it became a time thing. My grandpa passed away. He was part of the workforce. I had some cousins that helped us. They got older, got families, had other commitments, and it basically boiled down to Dad and I. And so that's, definitely nudged us into 100% no-till, but also, is it worth burning that fuel, worth buying that steel for? Is that going to return us money? But now it's definitely more of a pride thing. Driving around, we have some of the only green fields in our neighborhood here with cover crops, and we take pride in that. And I like driving by our fields and not seeing where maybe it doesn't create a gully, but you can see where some sheet erosion has occurred on a neighbor's field, but our field's stable with a cover crop there. But we still have a lot of work to do. We by far don't have all of our acres cover crop. That's a goal, but I'm not here to say we're perfect either. So, okay. A nugget of wisdom for a beginning farmer. This is a saying I use a lot. It is what it is. Don't try to be, if you're just starting out farming and you've got a neighbor that's, fifth generation, and they've got all the latest gadgets and things on their planter, I'm here to tell you corn will grow without all of that stuff. Stick to the principles. Don't try to be something you're not. Don't get caught up in the keeping up with the Joneses. It is what it is. Do what you're good at, and don't take it to mean that I think you should haphazardly do something by saying it is what it is. but accept the situation you're in, do the absolute best you can in that situation, and make a plan for moving forward.